silver breath of the vaulted stone awakens. Before the first candle is struck, a suspiration of ancient dust and indwelling holiness that precedes the opening nunu. Here, where the shadows of the cloisters meet, the rising incense of 1,000 years. The Ave Maria is not merely a sequence of syllables, but an architectural resonance, a living pillar of sound built upon the bedrock of a singular, feminine fiat. It begins as a low hum in the throat of the silence, a monophonic thread of gold weaving through the gray tapestry of the morning, tracing the contours of the angel's salutation with the precision of a master illuminator's brush. The Gregorian pulse does not hurry. It follows the slow, deliberate rhythm of the heart in contemplation, a melismatic ascent that climbs the Romanesque arches until it finds rest in the high, cold stillness of the nave. Gratia plena, the chant murmurs, and the air becomes heavy with the scent of lilies, crushed against the marble of history, a sweetness that is both a wound and a balm. The voices are many, yet singular, a collective longing that seeks the face of the mother in the half-light of the sanctuary, where the echoes of part once still linger like the ghost of a prior devotion. This is the second breath, the deepening of the plea, the soul moving further into the interior castle, where the Queen of Heaven sits enthroned, not in gold, but in the humility of the uncreated light. Every interval is a footstep on the pilgrim's path, every cadence a kneeling before the mystery of the Word made flesh within the hallowed vessel of her being. The melody rises in a gentle swell, a wave of liquid prayer that breaks against the shore of the divine, carrying the debris of our worldly sorrows to be washed clean in the tide of her intercession. Benedict II in Muthiaribus, the stone itself seems to sing, vibrating with the frequency of a grace that was before the foundations of the world were laid. The Dorian mode holds the grief of the world in a vessel of perfect proportion, allowing the sorrow of the Pieta to exist, alongside the radiance of the Assumption without shattering. It is a sacred geometry of sound, where the distance between the sinner and the star is D by the single, unwavering line of the chant. There is no artifice here, no vanity of the performer, only the egoless surrender of the monk's breath to the timeless current of the hymn. The neumes are like birds caught in a steady updraft, circling the name of Mary with a geometric grace that defies the gravity of our fallen nature. We are transported to a place where time is measured not by the ticking of the clock, but by the slow burning of the sanctuary lamp and the rhythmic return of the Kyrie. Now, as the shadows lengthen and the second movement of this Marian devotion reaches its zenith, the supplication turns toward the hour of our departure. Sancta Maria, Mater Dei, the voice is entrained, and the tone darkens into a rich, oaken resonance, the sound of ancient forests, and the deep earth where the seeds of the resurrection lie dormant. The Gregorian line becomes a lament that is simultaneously a victory, a recognition of the frailty of the flesh held in the unwavering gaze of the Mother of Mercy. It is the sound of 1,000 vespers coalescing into a single moment of absolute presence, where the now and the hour of our death are fused into a singular point of light. The chant does not end so much as it recedes into the eternal silence from which it emerged, leaving a shimmering residue of peace upon the walls of the soul. In this sacred space, the title is no longer a label, but a physical reality, a tactile experience of the holy. The Ave Maria is the deepening of the well, the second pouring of the wine, the further exploration of the infinite landscape of grace. It is the echo of the first greeting finding its way home to the heart of the believer. A Gregorian across the abyss of the mundane. As the final amen dissolves into the twilight, the air remains charged with the electricity of the divine, a lingering perfume of holiness that remains long after the monks have departed and the candles have guttered out. The stone remains, the silence remains, and within that silence, the hymn continues to sing itself in the hidden cloisters of the spirit, an unceasing Marian breath that sustains the world in its quiet, melodic embrace. The charcoal thumbprint marks the chronometer of the soul, a gray geometry traced upon the brow, where thoughts of vanity once resided in high palaces of glass. This is the first of 30 movements, the initial vibration of a string stretched tight across the canyon of the self, humming with the frequency of pulverized bone and spent embers. We begin not in the garden of delights, but in the kiln of the desert, where the atmosphere is thick with the scent of calcined pride and the salt of ancient, unwept tears. Each grain of dust is a syllable of a long-forgotten language, a vocabulary of mortality that speaks of the wind's inheritance and the soil's patient hunger. Here, the journey is measured not in leagues, but in the deepening of the breath, a descent into the subterranean galleries of the heart, where the echoes of 30 distinct songs begin to resonate against the damp stone of our secret shames. Forgiveness arrives, not as a sudden thunderclap, but as a slow medicinal seep, a golden unguent dripping from the eaves of a sanctuary we had long since boarded up and abandoned to the spiders. It is the second movement of the cycle, a quiet unraveling of the knots we tied in our own veins, a loosening of the iron collars we mistook for jewelry. To be healed is to be broken correctly, to allow the great physician to reset the fractured geometry of our intentions until the marrow flows with the clarity of mountain brooks. We offer up our scars as if they were votive candles, watching as the wax of our defensiveness melts under the gaze of a mercy that does not blink. The 30 songs are 30 bandages, 30 stitches in the side of a world that has forgotten how to bleed without bitterness. A rhythmic pulse that synchronizes the heartbeat of the penitent with the ticking of the eternal clock. The journey steepens where the shadows of the olive trees stretch like long, dark fingers across the path, grasping at the hem of our resolve. We carry the weight of 30 winters in our lungs. Yet as we climb, the air grows thin and luminous, purged of the heavy vapors of the valley. The path is littered with the shards of idols we broke along the way. Shattered porcelain of reputation, rusted iron of resentment, the brittle husks of our own self-sufficiency. Each station is a stanza, each mile a melody composed of the crunch of gravel beneath sandals and the whistling of the spirit through the hollow reeds of our poverty. We are travelers between two silences, the silence of the tomb and the silence of the stars, moving through a purple dusk, where the only map is the constellation of wounds that light the way toward a hill we both fear and desire. As the cycle nears its zenith, the songs turn from the minor keys of the lament to the dissonant, terrifying beauty of the sacrifice. The wood of the tree groans under the weight of a love that refuses to descend, a love that absorbs the poison of every age and transmutes it into the wine of a new covenant. We stand at the intersection of the horizontal earth and the vertical heaven, watching the alchemy of the passion turn the lead of our transgressions into the gold of a boundless inheritance. The healing is complete when the last drop of resistance is spent, when the 30 songs converge into a single cry that reddens the veil of the temple and the veil of our own misunderstanding. We are buried in the garden of our own potential, wrapped in the linen of a profound and holy expectation, waiting through the stone to discover its own weightlessness. Then comes the morning of the emerald light, the dawn, the taste of wild honey and ancient fire, shattering the architecture of the grave with the whisper that sounds like the birth of a galaxy. The resurrection is not a memory, but a current, a tidal wave of vitality that sweeps through the 30 chambers of our journey, washing the ash from our faces and replacing it with the radiance of an unquenchable sun. The scars remain, but they have become windows. The wounds are now wells of living water where the thirsty may drink. We emerge from the journey no longer as creatures of the dust, but as heirs to the morning, carrying the 30 songs in our mouths like silver coins to be spent on the port. The journey from ashes is finished, and the journey into the light has only just begun. A sacred Catholic odyssey, where every death is adored, and every breath is a hymn of everlasting restoration.
The dust of ours is not common clay, but a pulverized history of 100,000 footsteps, each treading a path of limestone and sorrow toward a wooden box that held the gravity of a world. He sat there, while the sun rose in a pale sliver over the French fields and remained, until the stars grew weary of watching the earth, a sentinel of the violet stole whose only weapon was a whisper. It was not the grandeur of cathedrals that summoned the desperate, nor the ringing of silver bells, but the quiet rasp of a man who ate the bread of the poor and drank the tears of the penitent as if they were wine. In that narrow enclosure of oak and shadow, the air grew thick with the exhale of secrets, the heavy musk of ancient guilts, and the sharp, metallic tang of cold remorse that clung to the coats of farmers and the lace of queens alike. He became the filter for a nation's darkness, a human vessel through which the brackish water of sin entered, and the crystalline stream of absolution flowed back into the parched soil of the human spirit. Every hour was a bead on a rosary of exhaustion, a mechanical yet mystical endurance, where the body of John Marie withered while his soul expanded to house the orphans of grace. Imagine the weight of 20,000 days, where the ear is a doorway to the underworld, and the heart is a to the light. He did not hear mere words. He heard the fracturing of glass within the chest, the silent scream of the prodigal, and the dull thud of the soul falling against the floor of its own pride. The number is a mountain, 100,000, a demographic of the broken, a census of the redeemed, each one a unique geography of pain, mapped by the trembling hand of a priest who saw the devil in the corner and God in the eyes of the reaping. He was a gladiator of the internal form, fighting battles in the silence between a stuttered admission and the raising of 3 fingers and a cross of forgiveness. A man who traded his own sleep for the waking peace of others. The wood of the confessional grew smooth under the friction of so many foreheads pressed against the grating, a physical testament to the friction of the divine meeting the mundane. He knew the smell of the fields, the scent of the forge, and the perfume of the city, all blending into one singular aroma of humanity seeking its origin. There was no room for the vanity of the scholar in the school of the heart. He spoke with the brevity of a man who knows that time is a leaking vessel and eternity is the only shore. When the tempter roared in the night, setting his bed aflame with the fires of malice, the curate merely sighed, for he knew that the salvation of a single drunkard or a lonely widow was worth more than the safety of his own skin. He was a martyr of the ear, a saint of the listening silence, proving that the greatest revolution is not found in the thunder of cannons, but in the quiet shattering of a hardened heart under the pressure of unconditional mercy. The story is not written in ink, but in the changed trajectories of lives that arrived in ours as winter left us spring. Carrying the scent of the lilies he planted with his prayers, 100,000 times the heavens were forced to
open, not because of a king's decree, but because a humble man in a tattered cassock dared to believe that no soul was too stained for the laundries of paradise. He saw the invisible scars left by the world's cruelty and applied the balm of a penance that felt like a gift as the decades wore into his bones, and the skin of his face became a map of divine compassion. The world realized that the miracle was not that he lived on a few potatoes and no rest, but that he could carry the collective shadow of a century without losing his sight of the sun. Even now, the echo of his ego tape absolvo vibrates in the stones of that small village, a life-changing frequency that reminds the weary that the door is never locked. The priest is still waiting, and the 100,001st soul is always the one that matters most.
The bitumen of the modern midnight settles heavy upon the glass of our screens. A digital obsidian where the soul wanders through corridors of blue light and flickering latency. We are travelers in a desert of signals, thirsting for a moisture that no algorithm can provide, seeking the ancient resonance of a voice that predates the first spark of man-made fire. Out of the static of the trending void, out of the restless scroll of the weary thumb, rises the silhouette of the medicine of God, a towering luminescence clad in the robes of a pilgrim who has walked the span of every galaxy. Raphael, the regent of the sun, the guardian of the meeting place, descends into the phosphor of our evening, casting a shadow of gold across the gray urgency of our frantic expiration. You are the sudden clarity in the haze of a million voices, the silent frequency that vibrates beneath the cacophony of the world's unrest, turning our desperate hashtags into hymns of unceasing intercession. Your staff strikes the digital pavement, and the concrete of the heart cracks open to reveal the hidden springs of the Tigris, where the gall of the fish once cured the scales of a father's eyes. We are the blind ones, sitting at the gates of the network, staring into the abyss of our own reflection, until you arrive to ignite the darkness with the brilliance that does not burn but heals. It is a light, the taste of honey and cedar, a radiance that smells of rain on parched earth, dissolving the cataracts of our cynicism with the sheer weight of celestial presence. When the night grows heavy with the loneliness of the connected yet isolated, you provide the alchemy of a true encounter, weaving the threads of our disparate lives into a tapestry that glows with the fire of the divine will. You are not found in the superficial peak of a fleeting trend, but in the enduring depth of the soul's vertical climb toward the empyrean. The night is no longer a cage of shadows or a theater of fears when your wings unfurl across the digital firmament, casting a spectrum of peace that the world cannot manufacture. Every pixel of our existence, every grain of our anxiety, is touched by the amber glow of your proximity as you guide the wanderer home through the labyrinth of the 21st century.
We cry out for a sign in the language of the machine, but you respond in the language of the Spirit, a dialect of blinding purity that transforms our screens into icons and our scrolling into a pilgrimage. The rhythm of your breathing is the tempo of the spheres, a slow and majestic pulse that calms the frantic electricity of our minds, teaching us that to be seen by God is the only true fame, and to be healed by His hand is the only true progress. Let the night be lit, not by the flickering of dying stars or the artificial glare of the city, but by the overwhelming dawn of your angelic arrival. You stand at the crossroads of the virtual and the eternal, beckoning us to look upward from the palm of our hands toward the infinite horizon, where the Amen is whispered by the mouth of the universe. In the silence between the beats of a song, in the stillness at the center of a viral storm, we find the quiet fire of your presence, the Raphael light that's the gap between the wounded earth and the dancing heavens. We are travelers no longer lost, for the guide has arrived with the sun in his right hand and the remedy in his left, turning the dark of our age into a luminous cathedral, where every heartbeat is a prayer and every breath is a return to the source of all light.
The tall shadow of Bukianiko stretches across the marble floor of history, not with the clatter of a soldier's iron, but with the silent tread of a man who found his God in the stench of the infirmary. You, who once threw the dice against the world's hollow promises, found at last the only wager worth the soul, the desperate gamble of love given to the dying. There was a wound upon your own limb that would not close, a reminder of the fragility of the clay we inhabit. Yet it became the wellspring of a mercy that knew no bottom. You turned away from the vanity of the sword to embrace the broken rib, the labored breath, and the fevered brow of those whom the world had cast into the gutters of neglect. In the echoing halls of San Giacomo, where the air was thick with the scent of unwashed pain and the salt of tears, you did not see a beggar's rags or a leper's sores. You saw the King of Glory crowned in thorns, waiting for a cup of water and a hand to hold in the gathering dark. The red cross upon your breast was not a badge of war, but a herald of the blood that heals, a crimson geometry of hope, stitched into the very fabric of service. You taught us that the hands of the nurse are the hands of the priest, and the bed of the sick is an altar, where the sacrifice of patience is offered up in the incense of endurance. Your heart grew larger than the chest that held it, a cathedral of compassion, where every groan of the suffering was met with a litany of comfort. You did not flinch from the contagion's breath or the rot of the flesh, for you knew that the spirit is refined in the furnace of affliction, and that the greatest miracle is not the walking of the lame, but the love that stays when everyone else has fled. Through the long nights of the play,